will begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fragments of silicon, full of words and data and signifying nothing.
Alex, maybe you shouldn't read so much Shakespeare before sleeping. Like, anyway, yeah. Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon, European edition. Joining us this week is once again Kai from Frozenbyte.
Hey guys.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's like a rainy afternoon here in Finland, and yeah, I'm back from like a long run of expos this year, so it's good to be back at the office as well for a change.
I believe you just came back from TGS.
Yeah, that is right.
And I'm guessing before that you hit like PAX or something like that.
Yeah, I mean we're actually on the road pretty much nonstop since a little bit before Gamescom. So we first took like a van to Gamescom in Germany, drove from Finland to over there, then straight from Gamescom to PAX West in Seattle, and then after PAX we had like 1 week here in Finland, and then to TGS in Tokyo. So yeah, quite a bit of expos and travel. It's been good.
Yeah, I think I feel exhausted just listening to that.
Yeah, I mean it's a few hours on the booth, but yeah, I get to show off the game and talk to people and get some feedback on the game, and yeah, it was awesome being in like pretty much around the world. So yeah.
Indeed. I suppose before we get to the game itself, I should ask, what was each of those events like, and how are they the same and how are they different?
Well, we had like in terms of our own booth setup, we had a little bit different things on each event. And Gamescom, we had I think 6 playable stations, so it was quite a big booth. And then there was a lot of people, but it wasn't like super crowded at the booth area itself. So there were like pretty wide sort of, I don't know what you call it, like streets or whatever between the different booth areas. So like people had a lot of space to move, at least in that hall. And some of the other halls, like with the AAA titles, there was of course like totally packed. But Gamescom in general, I think, was like the biggest venue of them all. And then PAX West was like the smallest of the 3 events, but that was super packed. So like the booth and then the aisles where people were walking, those were like totally filled up with people. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. And then Tokyo Game Show, that one we had the smallest booth, but still a lot of people at the event. So yeah, all a little bit different, but quite a lot of people on each event. So
and how long have you been back from TGS and the whole convention circuit?
Came back last week Monday, so a little over a week back here in Finland.
So you're over any like jet lag and that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, totally. That was like easy to sort out when you're first in Germany, then go to the States, and then go all the way, like go back to Finland, then Tokyo. So you know, it's all messed up anyway. So yeah, it doesn't take that long to get used to it. Like just sleep it off one day and then good to go.
Right. And before we get to the main event, should do a bit of follow up on Has Been Heroes.
Sure.
For those who missed our session in the spring, Has Been Heroes was the game Frozenbyte released back in March, April,
or April, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, my first question in regards to that is: has the game seen any updates in these 6 months afterwards?
Yeah, we did a couple of patches. Mostly like initial patch was to balance out some of the early, like make it a little bit easier, and then we did one bigger like quality of life patch. I think was during the summer sometime, which was like fixing a lot of bugs and then improving a lot of things that were, well, yeah, just like general improvement patch.
Makes sense. A lot of games do that. Any content updates to speak of?
No, just like improving the general game experience. So
Fair enough. Fair enough. And how well did the game perform? If you can speak on that matter.
well, I can't give any specific numbers, but it was doing pretty well. I think our best platform was Switch, and yeah, that kind of shows in like in terms of where the visibility was as well. So yeah, Switch was doing great.
Can you at least provide like a platform breakdown percentage-wise?
No, I don't actually know the numbers specifically to the platforms, but yeah, I just know that the Switch was doing the best. So
okay, good to know. Good to know. I mean, that's a tale I've heard from a lot of indie devs. Switch version's doing exceedingly well, although what's behind that is hard to say. If it's say genuine passion versus the Switch is a new system and doesn't have that big of a library, so
yeah.
That is something that will be answered with time. But
yeah.
Speaking of the Switch and all that, the game we're mainly going to be talking about is called Nine Parchments.
Yes.
And before we get into that, we do have a trailer. It's not a new one. It is the Nintendo Switch trailer, but it is what is currently available. So, Pettyfin, if you've got that queued up.
Yep. Give me 1 second.
So, for those who are listening to our audio-only version and thus can't see the footage, Nine Parchments is a self-described four-person cooperative blast 'em up, or if you will, a third-person action game, kind of in the style of Gauntlet or Magicka, something like that. Okay. Anyway, so I suppose we should begin at the beginning, so to speak. In where did the idea for Nine Parchments come from?
So yeah, the initial idea was just like because we made the Trine games before, and Nine Parchments is set in the Trine universe or Trineverse, if you want to call it that. So yeah, we kind of wanted to do a game about the wizards in that world, and we came up with making sort of a shooter game, top down, with wizards, and then yeah, we looked at other games in the genre and like twin stick shooters and action RPGs and like what's out there, and then decided that we want to make a game that's accessible. You get to play as a bunch of wizard, cast a lot of spells. Wanted to have like a lot of like chaos in the co-op sense of the game. That friendly fire was something we had in mind from the start, and wanted it to be sort of a game where you sit down, play with friends or anybody from online, and you quickly get the hang of the game. But then there's a lot of fun and depth to the actual game once you get. It's easy to get into, but there's still quite a lot of content and stuff to play. So.
Well, I suppose the question that beckons is, what kind of content can you unlock, and or is this like a skill-based progression sort of game?
There's a bit of both. So, I mean, the basic controls are very easy. It's like plays like a twin stick shooter game. So you move with the left and aim with the right stick, and then you cast a bunch of spells, swap out the spells, and then use like different maneuvers like jump, and then there's like a teleport spell like called blink, which you could also call it like a dash. So you kind of move forward and teleport in front of yourself, and you can use that to dodge enemy projectiles, beams, and if they charge at you. So there's a lot of fine like movement-based gameplay. So you have to move, shoot, and dodge enemies. That's kind of where the skill part comes from. But then the characters also gain experience. You level them up. So as you kill the monsters, you complete the levels, you find chests, you get experience, and then at the end of levels, you get to train your character in different skill trees, which boost your character's powers in different ways depending on what you want to focus your skill points on. So typically there's like a offensive tree, spell tree, defensive spell tree, and then something special for each character. So yeah, you get to train the characters, they level up, and then also the spell system works in the way that you start out with a couple of starting spells, each different to the character you're playing as. So you play as a bunch of different wizard students who have a different starting spell. Then after a few levels, when you beat certain boss fights, you get to choose a new spell from a pool of random spells that are probably a little bit different each time you play. So you kind of get to customize your character in that way as well.
And can you upgrade previous versions of spells?
No, but you can upgrade your like skill points, which can boost your current spells. So you can upgrade them in that way.
Okay. And how does the upgrade pathways work? Like co-op versus single player. Like, is it separate, or you can like play the single player and then take your character into co-op?
You can take the skill points, and the levels are kind of tied to the character you're playing as.
Mm-hmm.
And so in co-op, if another player plays as another character, they use their own version. Or that's an online multiplayer. In local one, it's like the ones that you have played on your computer or Switch or PS4 or Xbox. But so yeah, you can. So it's tied to the character itself. So let's say I play as the fire mage, and I've leveled him up to level 30, and I want to start a new game. Whether that's a single player game or a co-op game, he will start out as level 30. So he'll have 30 skill points to train. But if I play as another character which I haven't leveled up previously, then he'll be like level 1. So.
And to the nature of co-op itself, is it drop in, drop out, or like do you have to all be there?
Yes, in a general sense. I'm not 100% sure how it works in if you have an online multiplayer game going on, if it's drop in or drop out, but maybe like if because you can have a mix of local co-op and online. So if you're playing an online game and then you add another controller locally to the game, you probably might be able to um, join the game. But in local co-op, it's definitely drop in, drop out. So.
Now, in terms of local and online co-op, are those both going to be in all versions of the game or just some?
On all the versions, so every platform.
That's good to hear. Like the PC version will have local co-op and such.
Yeah.
Right. So moving forward, what exactly are the 9 parchments?
So the 9 parchments, they're kind of uh, I'll backstep a little bit. So like in the world of like where these wizard students are situated in, there's a place called the Astral Academy, which is like the wizard school of magic, and the wizards train there for, or the apprentices train there for 9 years, studying 1 parchment per year, and to complete your wizard training and become a full-time wizard, you need to have 9 parchments in your spellbook. So that's kind of where the 9 parchments name comes from. But the game itself is about like there's a huge explosion at the academy, and then all the spell parchments are blown all over the world, like into the 4 corners, and the wizard students, they decide to go searching for the parchments in order to complete their spell books, just by finding the parchment and studying them on their own. So that is story of the name of the game.
I see. A bit of an unorthodox method of studying, but whatever gets the job done, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it's not without their deadly accidents.
Of course. But that's kind of be expected, especially like with wizarding.
Yeah.
Anyway, right. So you mentioned this game is actually connected to the Trine games.
Yeah.
Like how much so? Like, I'm assuming you don't have to have played the previous Trine games to get a sense of 9 parchments, but like, are there links that players of that series will get?
Yeah, you don't need to have played the previous Trine games, to sort of get this game. It's kind of totally different gameplay genre in general, but it is in the same universe, and the Astro Academy is a location that we've seen in all the Trine games so far. So if you've played the Trine games before, you get to revisit that place, but seen from a different angle and looking a little bit different. But then there's also the connection of one of the characters in Trine. So Amadeus the wizard, he's going to be one of the playable characters in 9 Parchment. So he's actually the final character that you unlock, and there's a really, I would say, pretty tough quest to get him unlocked, but you will be able to get him in the end if you do the quest right.
So is that kind of like just an Easter egg thing, or is this more of like a prequel to like Trine?
I wouldn't say Easter egg because he's one of the unlockable characters itself, but there's certain Easter egginess type to him because he's like a.
But there's not really a real story reason why he's there. It's just you decided to put him as a playable character.
There might be some story, but I don't want to spoil
Fair
much
enough.
why he's there. But also like related to like if you played the previous Trine games, there might be some like dialogue between the characters, or when you play as Amadeus, like that will be interesting if you enjoyed the stories in the Trine games and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and well, I suppose another question is in regards to Amadeus himself. Is he going to have like a different skill set than he did in Trine?
Yes and no. So we all know that. Well, I don't know if you guys know, but the standing joke with Amadeus is he can't cast a fireball spell. All his little triplet boys and pretty much every wizard in the Trine world knows how to cast a fireball, but he doesn't, even though he's like a wizard.
Well, he
So
put most of his specs into dropping boxes on things, didn't he?
yeah, yeah. So in Nine Parchments, I'm afraid he still doesn't have the fireball, but he might have a special box that he uses. So it evens out.
Right, and he is just one character out of how many?
There's 8 playable characters in total, but also different variations of those characters. So with variations, I mean they look a little bit different, but are the same characters. So they have different clothes, and they also have different starting spells and also the skill trees.
I'm assuming this is in case like people want to play as say two versions of that character in multiplayer.
Yeah. Yeah. So like the experience and skill tree is tied to the character, but that includes the variations as well. So if you have like you're playing as the owl guy and you've leveled up the main variation or any variation, because it is the same character, so the variations are included in the leveling. So
Gotcha. So you level up one variant, they all get leveled up.
yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And right. So about the like levels themselves, are they procedurally generated or are they built?
They're all built. So there's 24 normal levels in the game that you play through on one playthrough, and then there's 8 boss fights in addition to that. So you play through the same levels, but the thing that changes if you decide to replay the game is you might play as a different character, you might try a different skill build, and then the spells you get are from a pool of random spells with some limitations that you get like the first spells you get are from like some of the first spells that you don't get like the end game huge fireball spells from the first boss fight, but still they're like randomized. So yeah, those change on the playthroughs and
Makes sense.
Now, like, I'm looking at the trailer, and there are some spells that, like, I guess enemies or bosses are immune to. Do you take
Yeah.
that into account for the randomization? Like, if you need a certain spell for or a certain element for a type of boss, will it prioritize giving you that as opposed to, oh, I'm stuck with all spells this boss is immune to, what do I do?
well, generally speaking, they all start with a couple of different elements, so you shouldn't have uh, enemies that are completely immune to everything. That's kind of I don't think I've ever seen a situation where there's something like that. So usually the enemies are immune to one element, or if it's like that's in the case that if they have the like auras, which is like the like let's say like blue ball around the enemy or red one that's like fire or ice immune, and then or the enemy itself can be of a certain element like fire or ice or death or something like that, then the enemy itself is immune. Uh, but there might be cases where, like, let's say sort of mini boss or a little bit tougher standard enemy has an elemental immunity in itself, and then it's emitting an aura which gives other characters within that aura immunity to another element. So let's say like a fire sort of enforcer, which are the huge rocky guys, can be like fire immune, and then he has ice immunity aura, which gives the enemies around him ice immunity. So you're kind of always looking at what the enemies are immune to, what auras they have, and then choosing which spells to use at which points, and yeah, like changing the spells all the time in order to compensate what the enemies are immune to.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Now, can you change your spells on the fly, or is that something done at the beginning of a level?
Well, you start out with certain spells, like two spells per character, and those are always the same. And then you get to choose a new spell, which is added to your like spell wheel every few levels once you beat the boss fights. But then during that playthrough, you can't change those spells that you've already gotten. So let's say you have like a fireball, let's say you have electric beam, and then you have a healing spell, and then you get more spells, like let's say ice shard. So you have those four spells already, but you can't change the ones that you've already gotten. You can only select new ones from the additional ones that you're getting.
Hmm.
And then if you play like start a new game, then you have the starting spells, and then the next spells you get are again from a pool of random spells.
Right, and shifting back to the characters a bit, who are the other seven, and how different are each of the characters? Like, do they? Is it just their spell types that differentiate them, or do some have more defense, agility, what have you?
Well, they all obviously look different, and have sort of they have the different starting spells. So like the healer, the girl with the what's that color? Green cape. She's like the healer character. The old guy with the beard is like the fire mage or fire wizard. The owl guy is more focused on electricity, and then the cat wizard is a warlock. Then we have an ice wizard and one guy who's just a cleaner at the academy. But they have different personalities, and then they have different starting spells, different appearance, but also the skill trees that they have are unique to the characters. So they're slightly different depending on which one you're playing as. So there's quite a lot of differences depending on which one you choose. And at the start of the game, you get to choose either using the young wizard guy, Cornelius, or the healer, which is Gizlan. And then the other characters you unlock as you play.
And in regards to the characters all being wizards, was that something that purely formed out of storyline reasons, or does that go back further to the to the sea? First, like having the trine representation of rogue, fighter, and mage.
I think it's a little bit of both, but we kind of decided from like very early on that this was going to be a game about wizards and using just magic as a way to fight the enemies. So that was the initial like idea of the game. It actually started out as like the initial project was called Amadeus Battle Mage. It was like some like very early name that we used to describe this project. So, but yeah.
Right. Moving a bit here. Can you change your cosmetics, like hats or robes and so on?
Yes, some of them. So there's two kinds of items that change your appearance besides like the character variations themselves. So you can collect hats. Those are purely like visual cosmetic changes to the characters. But then you can also change the staffs of the characters, and the staffs they can have some magical properties like shorter cooldown on your blink, or might have some elemental damage with your melee hits. So you can have like fire damage staff or ice damage, which might slow the enemy and so on. So yeah, those are the two kinds of cosmetic and sort of loot items that you get in the game.
Right. And are those found are those cosmetic items found within the levels, or do you buy them, or how do you obtain them?
You find them in the levels. So they're like the hats. You might find those in chests that are scattered in the levels. They might be a little bit hidden behind trees, or might be a little bit of a secret path to, or like behind some rocks, or they're a little bit hidden, but you find some chests in the levels. They also give some experience when you open them, so that's another reason to go looking for the chest in the levels. And the staff, some of the bosses or like mid-level bosses might drop those as well. So those are some things to keep an eye out for. And the cool thing about the staffs are also is like besides being something that you wield on the characters, they also act as keys. So they are your way to unlock new characters. So in some of the levels that you play, you might find a staff of, let's say, something that belongs to the fire wizard, and you haven't yet unlocked that character. Mm-hmm. And then at another level further on in the game, there is a specific gate or door that leads to another alternative path within the level, and you can only access that if you found the staff or the key, if you will, to open that door. And then unlocking the characters are always a little bit different. They're cool little side quests. So the fire wizard, for example, he's trapped in like this icy cavern deep beneath the ground, and there's a huge underground blizzard going on, keeping everything frozen. And he's trapped inside ice, like in an icy prison, and you have to light these beacons on fire within the level to unfreeze him and rescue him. And then you get to play as him later on.
Sounds neat. I'm assuming, like, in terms of level type, are we going to see, like, ice world, fire world, desert world, forest world, and the like?
Not exactly. There's like a beach or like beach themed level with lots of sand and water and sort of tropical jungle type of world. That is the first one. And then we of course have the ice world, which is like the glacier. We also have Spring Valley, which is more of a, how would I say it, like Asian inspired, like well, Spring Valley. And then what's the final one? Like Highlands, like yeah, that's the fourth one. So like 4 different main themes, and then some variations like indoors and outdoors. Like you might be inside of a mining area, or then like a cavern, which is a natural formation, or yeah.
Sounds good. Keeping things, the locations fresh enough.
Yeah.
And so about the music, what kind of music are you aiming for in this game, and who's doing the composing?
So our main composer will be Ari Pulkkinen, who's done the music of the Trine games. He's also known for a lot of other things, like he made the Angry Birds theme, and but yeah, mostly for us, he made the music to Trine games, and then he also did like the soundtracks for the Shadowgrounds games, like quite a few years before that. But yeah, so he's going to be the, and the music itself is like I would say pretty like fantasy inspired, kind of like very similar to what we have in Trine.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. Like, is it? Yeah, is it going to be similar to Trine, or is he like? Are there going to be any callbacks to Trine musically speaking?
Yeah, there's going to be, because it's in Trine world, so it's of course going to have some similarities and connections to the Trine games.
Not surprising. Let's see. So are all versions of this game being worked on at once, or is there like a master version and everything is flowing from that?
A little bit of both. I mean, obviously we're getting soon ready to submit all the consoles, and well, we have like the main branch where we branch out to different like console specific things. So yeah, we are working on both things at the same time, like the main branch where all the gameplay stuff comes from. Then there's of course different specific things for each platform, like the achievements or what's called trophies, or the Steam specific stuff. So yeah, there is both.
Right. And I suppose in terms of console specificity, well, I'm gonna have to break this down in two parts. First, like with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, what sort of resolution frame rate are you shooting for there? And is there going to be Pro slash Xbox One X support?
I think all platforms will be 1080p, Switch 720p when you're in handheld mode. I think the latest is Switch will be 30 FPS, PS4, Xbox 60, and then not sure about PS4 Pro, but at least on Xbox One X we'll have 4K.
Okay. And I suppose in regards to the Nintendo Switch version, have you encountered any glaring issues getting it onto the system versus, the other platforms?
Actually, no, I don't think so. It has been pretty smooth on all the different platforms, including Switch. So, yeah.
That's good to hear. And is there going to be any specific Switch touchscreen abilities here, or is it going to be in line with like everything else?
No touchscreen stuff, but on Switch, because you have the portable mode and you have the Joy-Cons, we will have support for single Joy-Con controls as well. So basically, two people could play on a single Switch with just the Joy-Cons
That's
on the
neat.
go.
You don't actually lose out on that many buttons when you do that. So
Yeah, there's a few things we need to adjust for when because you lose a few buttons, but even in the full with a full set of controller and buttons, we're not using everything unless you decide to like do some specific binds to like quick
I
keys.
think the main thing you lose would be the other stick.
Yeah, we're using it like I don't have a Joy-Con, so it's hard to imagine in my visualize the controller in my brain. But yeah, it's like using the D-pad as like aiming different directions, and then you're moving with the left. So yeah, it works really nicely actually on a single Joy-Con. So kind of really happy to see that we actually got it done and it's working. So.
And now for single player, you can play with two Joy-Cons if you want to, right?
Yeah.
And any plans to utilize the HD Rumble?
I haven't heard the latest on that one. I think we'll just have, not sure. Sorry.
It's okay, Mike. Right. Anyway, so are all versions looking to be released at the same time, or is like the PC version ahead, or how is that all working out in aligning?
I mean, hopefully, we have to. That is definitely the goal, to have everything out at the same time on all regions across the world. So US, Europe, Japan, on all platforms where it's possible. So all consoles, all regions, all at the same time. Give or take like a few days if there's like a specific day that you need to release on like Xbox or PS4 or Switch. But generally speaking, we want everything to be sim shipped, and that is the goal. And getting ready to submit stuff soon. So yeah, we're aiming to release everything on the holidays this year. So.
I mean, that does sound ambitious, releasing on 4 platforms at once across the world.
Yeah, well, that is what we're going for. So,
and knock on wood and all that.
Yeah.
How much of the game would you say is complete at this point? And do you think that the game will make 2017?
Yeah, I think it will make 2017 for sure, unless we encounter some crazy, unexpected things. But it's pretty much complete. There's some, I think, the main stuff that we're still focusing on fixing is some like user interface, like getting the graphics implemented on, like, because there were some slight revamps on that front. So kind of gameplay wise, you can play the game through, everything it works, and you can complete the game, all the features work, but still need to make sure that all the user interface things are like polished and fully ready. So that's kind of, I think, the main thing. And then because we have the game in 4 different difficulty modes: easy, normal, and hard. And then the monster placement and randomization and like what you're up against is slightly different on all the difficulties. So I think we are still fine tuning the hard difficulty based on some feedback that we got. So.
All right. And in terms of the PC platform, is it going to be Windows only, or are you looking at Mac and Linux as well?
It looks to be Windows only this time around. Mac and Linux, we kind of didn't have the right people to make those versions. So at least for launch, we will have just like Windows support.
That's unfortunate to hear.
Yeah.
But hopefully that can be resolved, down the line.
Yeah.
And anyway, so have you announced a price for this game yet, or is that still under wraps?
I think we've spoken about the price at least at the expo, so it's gonna be give or take $20, €20 price point on.
About what I was expecting. $15, $20 seems to be your normal indie price range at this day and age.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll check with my colleagues one last time here. Do you all have any more questions for Kai?
I think all of mine have been answered.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of the game, but I think all of my questions at this point have been pretty well covered.
All right. Well, yeah, it seems like we're all looking forward to the game, and hopefully we can review it once it comes out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, probably be in contact whenever exactly that should happen. But in the meantime, keep an eye out for 9 Parchments coming to pretty much all major formats this holiday season for $20, and hopefully it will do well.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem, no problem. Right, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments Silicon. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for our main show, where we have Cyrus Wesson of Bandai Namco Entertainment coming onto the program. We're going to be talking about Project Cars 2 there. And I do hope you all join us. And until then, I wish you good gaming.